So just want to talk about God's blood-based economy for forgiveness real quick. And the first thing is where this actually started was where? In Eden. And what's interesting about that, after they had sinned, what did God cover them with? He covered them with animal skins. Something had to what? Die. So it says, Eden's first covering, he says, after Adam and Eve sinned, God clothed them with what? Animal skins, implying the first sacrifice. So watch this, is interesting. Man tried to cover it up, but God is already showing us what his economy is for the sake of forgiveness. So look, it says their fig leaves weren't enough, because what did they do? Once they realized they were naked, what did they go do? They tried to cover up, and God was saying, that's not enough to atone for your sins at that particular time. Something, meaning he's already showing us what forgiveness looks like, and he's doing it from the perspective of, hey, it's going to be something dying in order to cover. In this particular case, the innocent blood process covering guilty people, a foreshadowing of Christ. And again, that's in Genesis, and that's also in John 1. Well, what's the next step? How does he continue to kind of give us an idea of what this blood-based economy looks like for forgiveness? Well, he goes to Cain and Abel. And let's look at how that works. God regarded Abel's offering from the firstborn of the flock, highlighting, watch this, the acceptable approach to God involved shed blood, not mere produce. So now, when we go to that particular story, we see that Cain's particular fruit offering was not enough. Now, we see it from, and I would say for me, for many years, from the perspective of him not picking the first or the best, but beyond that, it was not enough because it was a fruit. In this particular case, it was a blood sacrifice that was needed for the sake of forgiveness. So when Abel gave over an animal, and the best of that, he was just highlighting, again, this blood-based economy that God already said was going to be necessary for mankind to be forgiven. Well, let's go to this next thing. So beyond Cain and Abel, we go to the Passover, and we're pretty aware of this. Before they came out of Egypt, there was blood that was put over the actual doorpost, where it said Passover in the law. It said God formalized it under Moses. And if we go to Leviticus, it talks about it even more. It says Israel was spared by lamb's blood on the doorpost. And the covenant itself was inaugurated with blood, meaning it was started. Without shedding of blood, there is no forgiveness. And that's talked about in Exodus 12 and 13, and also Hebrews 9, 18 and 22. And again, we go to the Day of Atonement. So beyond the Passover and the actual law, we have this Day of Atonement that they would annually do. It said yearly sacrifices underscore the principle, but could never do what? It could never cover, remove sins, pointing ahead to a better sacrifice. So in this particular case, they did these annual sacrifices in order to what? Cover, not remove actual sin. And again, this continues on this idea of this blood-based economy for the sake of forgiveness. But now ultimately we come to where this blood-based economy comes to its peak and its high point. And that's through the fulfillment of Jesus Christ. It said the blood economy finds its goal at the cross. Jesus offered himself once and for all, bringing total, permanent forgiveness and ending the old system. And again, that's in Hebrews 9, verses 25 and 26. And also that is in 10, verses 10 and 14, and also Colossians 2, 13 and 14. And again, this is the quick takeaway from that. He said, God used centuries of blood pictures to shout out the message. And again, that goes back to what we were talking about earlier. When God revealed the way he was going to bring man back to him, he put it on display, meaning he had Christ openly sacrifice. Well, in this particular case, we find that this idea of forgiveness was shouted out, and it was a blood picture that was given through over the centuries on how God was going to do that. And only blood brings forgiveness. So Jesus shed his blood once, and it worked what? The first time. Didn't have to be redone, and it still doesn't have to be redone. He did it for all time. So you're completely forgiven and perfectly cleansed forever.